The one thing I didn't do to avoid 5 dark days in Croatia. You probably wouldn't make this mistake. As a female solo traveller, I need to take extra precautions to stay safe. But on my first volunteer gig, I did not take that one extra precaution and I paid the price. Yes, I paid the price. My name is Victoria Rose. I was born a solo traveller. I want to share with you my Croatian story. So in this video, part 1, the catalyst. How did it all start? Part 2, the drama, the lies and the deceit. Part 3, the end, how I escaped. I travelled Croatia for 90 days. Enjoy this small taste of how I spent the other 85 delightful days. So, what was the catalyst? I am a member of a volunteer platform called workaway.info. So easy to use. First, you decide which country you'd like to visit. Then you make a list of the hosts, looking at what they expect you to exchange for your daily weekdays of work for accommodation and food. Then you connect on the Workaway platform so that you are secure. And that was how I met this American couple. They were asking for help to build their organic farm. They had a couple of dogs which they needed to be walked, and they had a 1-year-old baby with minimal caring whilst the wife cared for her online business. And do you know what the bonus was? An absolute bonus was they were both chefs. What more could you want? So we had lots of messages going back and forth, and we decided that 30 days would work well. Little did I know, I'd already set myself up to experience 5 dark days of drama in Croatia. Day 1, this happened. I was in Opatija. The husband drove to Opatija, and then took me all the way back to where the organic farm was, and that's Josipdol. This was my first red flag. When I stepped into the car, the body odour smell was so strong, coupled with foul bad breath. I wondered how I would survive the 1 hour, 21-minute drive to his home. But more was to come. And that was when I got my second red flag. On the trip over, he said, well, it's not an organic farm just yet. It's our vision, but it's not happening right now. And as a matter of fact, he and his wife and baby were leaving in 10 minutes after I arrived. He was flying to America to find work, and the wife was going to be away for 2 nights with the baby. Thank goodness. I was not that concerned at that time because I thought those 2 nights would be great for me to settle in. But then I really looked as we drove down this driveway, and I got the 3rd red flag. That construction site was my accommodation. The drama unfolded from there. I walked around the back of the home, and here we are. The very stinky, smelly back door, surrounded by dirty disposable nappies in the bucket, food that was going bad, beer bottles, the smell of, oh my gosh, it was not a good good way and to greet me, and that was my fourth red flag, because then I realised, well, I haven't even stepped through the front door yet. What awaits me? And notice, by the way, the pole keeping the front door closed. Well, that's also a red flag. That means that I cannot close the door. I cannot lock it. So, what was the one thing I didn't do to avoid 5 dark days in Croatia? Whilst we're at the back of the home, have a look at this red. Look at that. What do you think that is? Then the second red. That's the garage. That's where the dogs are kept all day and all night, which is why they need to have their 2 daily walks. And here they are, the black dog and the white dog. They fight. And on day 2, I had decided that I could not take them for any walks because I really thought that they'd kill each other. There's another reason why they're kept locked up in that. Actually, there are 2 reasons why they're kept locked up in that garage. One is there are no fences on the property. The second reason is this cutest little kitty. There were 2 little kitties. Guess what happened to the other little kitty? So here we have an added responsibility on my plate to ensure that there was at least this little kitty was left safe and sound on their return. Then I stepped in the door and this awaited me in the kitchen. Some of that food had been there for weeks. I was shocked. This is the other side of the small kitchen. There was not even anywhere to sit down. Then you walk through the kitchen. This is the bedroom, and through the bedroom is the toilet and the shower, which is where the kitty was staying. Now, what about the food? What about being chefs? This is the fridge after I've cleaned it out. I was told I could have anything in the fridge. It took the second bite of, or spoonful of, potato salad to realise I was eating mould. So then I had to clean the fridge out as well. This all happened in October 2018. This part of Croatia experiences what they call a European winter. And it was quite cold. There was frost outside. There was mist, chilly wind blowing through that hole in the wall. Do you remember it? I'd already changed the bed around to get some sort of semblance of feeling comfortable in this construction site. This is one side of the bedroom, and this is the other side. Oh, and just in case you think that I'm being a bit sooky about the conditions, I, for 23 years, was a soldier in the Australian Army Reserve. I was used to rough conditions, but even with the rough conditions, I never, ever felt unsafe. Well, as you can imagine, there were so many red flags now that I've stopped counting. And you know what? It is not okay that I walked into this. They told me of the bad experiences they'd had with other workaways. One young man had walked in, had a look around, and left straight away. No wonder. So have you guessed what is the one thing I didn't do to avoid these 5 dark days in Croatia? Day 2. This happened. Transformation. I could not stay in that filth. I had to stay. I couldn't leave straight away because there were 2 dogs and a kitty that were relying on me to feed them and to look after them. And the wife and baby were not due back for another night. So I had to fix it up. I did some elbow grease, and I believe I didn't do a bad job. Would you have done this? Let me know. Well, you've had to, really. And then inside at the kitchen, did a lot of work in there as well. Transformation. But what about the construction site upstairs that I was meant to stay in? Well, I decided to put on my designer's hat. And this is what I came up with. I made an office, stacked up some of the bricks, I got one of my scarves and placed it over to give some feeling of normalcy to my office. Wasn't very comfortable though. And then this is my ensuite. I walked to the shops quite a distance and bought this white bucket, and that was my toilet. Then I found the blue bowl where I put water, and then I had my vanity cupboard there. You can see my electric toothbrush and other stuff. Then, day 3, this happened. This is when the wife returned, and I kind of thought she'd pick up that things were a hell of a lot better now than when she left, but she did not say a word. And this is her little one. It's a very cute little boy, but sadly he was sick. That was when I found out that she could not drive. The baby was sick. She was not feeling that good either. So then I drove her to the shops for her to get some goods, and also to the chemist so that she could get some medicine for the baby. And sadly, the meals that she cooked were nowhere near the standard of chef. For 3 nights, she shared her life with me, and the thing that I can remember the most wasn't a particularly happy life. I can remember the most, though, was what she shared about her mother, and that her mother was committed to an insane asylum because of the bizarre way she acted and behaved. So, suffice to say that it was not a very cheerful 3 nights. And the other thing that was happening was, because there was no organic farm for me to spend time on, and I refused to take the dogs for walks because they fought each other, I now was looking after the little one more during the day. And that's not what I went there for. So things were turning sour really quickly. Due to the freezing winter conditions, I slept in every night with the wind howling through the construction site. I started to get sick. I did have a video chat with my children, and they both said to me, "Get out, Mum, you have to get out." But I was conflicted. She couldn't drive. How was she going to get more medicine, more food? I was conflicted. How could I leave? But then the day came. Day 5, the end. How did it end? What caused me to decide I needed to leave for my own safety? Do you remember the garage doors where the dogs were kept locked up every day and every night? Well, it was still my role to feed them. And the mind plays tricks on you when you're there in the environment, when you're listening to the stories that the host is telling you about her own mother, and when you're hearing the stories and comparing them to the host's own behaviour, when you are inside this garage feeding the dogs. Remember what I said, the mind plays tricks. I was starting to feel sick and I just wasn't happy. That was when I realised, gosh, what would stop her from closing those garage doors on me when I'm inside feeding the dogs, and cleaning up all the poo? Look, that probably never would have happened, but it was such a bizarre experience. I could not help myself thinking of that. My mind continued to run that impossible scenario. And that was when I realised that my kids were right. I had to get out. I left the very next day. What was the one thing I didn't do to avoid 5 dark days in Croatia? You've guessed it, haven't you? Did you make a comment down there? Did you guess what was the one thing I did not do? Here it is. I did not insist on a video chat. I mentioned it, I asked for it, but they said it was not necessary and they were not keen. Being my first volunteer gig, I had no idea how important it was. I know without a shadow of a doubt exactly how important it is to have that video chat. I would have seen the construction site where I was required to live. I would have seen how bad the kitchen and the backyard was. I would have seen that there was no organic farm. That's my advice. Whatever you do when you're going to spend time with other people, insist on a video chat. I got on that train to Zagreb. Oh, please watch this next video.